Eustace Conway has always lived in a world shaped by nature instead of noise, and that choice defined every step he ever took. He built his life with his own hands, believed in the honesty of hard work, and trusted the land the way other people trust technology. For years, people admired him, but very few understood the quiet battles he carried inside. His love for the wilderness began long before the world knew his name. He felt a kind of peace in the mountains that ordinary life could never offer. But this peace came with challenges that tested both his strength and his patience. Most people thought he lived a simple life, but simplicity does not mean ease. He woke up with responsibilities that required discipline, courage, and a deep respect for nature. Each sunrise demanded that he prove himself all over again. He built Turtle Island with one dream in mind: to teach people how to reconnect with the world around them. He wanted others to feel the same connection he felt the first time he walked alone through the forest. He hoped the land would speak to them the way it spoke to him. But dreams often collide with reality, and Eustace learned this the hard way. The more people admired his lifestyle, the heavier the responsibilities became. Running Turtle Island required energy and resources that stretched him emotionally and physically. There were days when he felt overwhelmed by expectations placed on him. People came seeking wisdom, guidance, and inspiration, but they rarely asked how he was doing. They did not see the sacrifices behind the lifestyle they praised. Eustace carried a deep sense of duty toward the land. He believed that every decision should honor nature, protect the environment, and preserve traditions. But living by those beliefs often put him at odds with the modern world. He faced pressure from outside forces trying to limit what he built. Regulations, legal issues, and public scrutiny created obstacles that drained his spirit. Even the land he loved seemed threatened by changes beyond his control. Despite these struggles, he continued teaching with passion. He believed that if even one person understood his message, his efforts were worthwhile. He hoped his work would inspire others long after he was gone. But with each passing year, he felt the weight of time pressing harder. His body carried the marks of a lifetime spent outdoors, scars, injuries, and aches that never fully healed. He knew he could not live with the same relentless energy forever. Still, he refused to show weakness. He kept moving, kept teaching, kept building, even when exhaustion pulled at him. He believed that slowing down meant giving up, and giving up was something he never allowed himself to do. But inside, a quiet fear grew stronger. He feared that the world no longer valued the lessons he fought to preserve. He feared that the younger generation was losing touch with nature faster than he could teach them to reconnect. He often wondered what would happen to Turtle Island when he was no longer able to run it. This thought weighed heavily on him, especially during quiet nights when the forest fell still. He knew the land deserved someone who loved it as much as he did. People around him saw the strength, but they rarely saw the loneliness. He lived close to nature but far from the emotional comfort most people experience. The wilderness gave him peace but also demanded solitude. Living independently shaped him, but it also isolated him. He learned to depend on himself for everything, which made it difficult to open up to others. His silence was often misunderstood as distance, even though he cared deeply. Over the years, he met people who admired his courage and philosophy. Some stayed for a while, learning his ways, helping with work, and sharing meaningful conversations. But many left, returning to comfortable lives they could not leave behind permanently. This cycle created a quiet heartbreak inside him. He wondered if the world he valued was slowly disappearing. Each departure felt like another reminder that his way of life was becoming rare. Still, he refused to abandon hope. He believed that the land had its own way of guiding people back to what truly matters. He continued teaching, trusting that his message would reach the right hearts. Then came the moment that changed everything. A moment when age, stress, responsibility, and silent pain finally caught up with him. He realized the world needed to hear the truth directly from him. When he sat down to deliver his final message, his voice carried decades of wisdom. He spoke with honesty, not fear, and with courage, not regret. The message was not just an update, it was a revelation. He admitted that his body was slowing down in ways he could no longer hide. He explained that Turtle Island could not survive unless people who truly cared stepped forward. He expressed gratitude for those who stood with him but also confessed that the burden had become too much for one man alone. He spoke about legacy, land, and the responsibility of protecting something bigger than ourselves. His words revealed the deep emotional exhaustion he carried for years. He finally allowed the world to see the vulnerable side of him that he had always kept hidden. Eustace's message was not a goodbye, but it was a turning point. He acknowledged that he needed to step back and let others carry the mission forward. He reminded everyone that the survival of Turtle Island was not about him, it was about the message. He ended with a truth that touched everyone who listened. He said the land does not belong to us, we belong to the land. He hoped people would continue protecting it long after he could no longer lead. When Eustace Conway shared his final message, people could feel the weight behind every word. It was not dramatic, not emotional for attention, it was simply honest. Honesty has always been his strongest tool, even stronger than the skills he mastered in the wilderness. He began by talking about time, how it changes everything, even the strongest spirits. He admitted that he was not the same man he used to be when he first built Turtle Island. Back then, he could lift, climb, build, and endure without hesitation. Now his body reminded him of limits he never wanted to accept. Years of labor left permanent marks on him. Every injury carried a story, and every scar carried a lesson. He spoke about nights when pain kept him awake. He described mornings when getting out of bed felt like lifting a fallen tree. But he never let anyone see those moments until now. Sharing these truths was not weakness, it was courage. He wanted others to understand that nature gives strength but also takes its due. He believed people needed to hear the reality, not just the romantic version of his life. Eustace then spoke about responsibility. For decades, he carried the mission of Turtle Island alone. He handled teaching, maintenance, legal issues, finances, and emotional labor without asking for help. Carrying all of this broke him slowly over the years. He loved Turtle Island with all his heart, but love alone cannot carry an entire world. He admitted that the burden had become too heavy for one person. His voice softened as he talked about the land. The forests, rivers, and mountains were like family to him. They shaped him, healed him, and taught him more than any human ever could. He reminded people that nature does not need saving, it needs respect. He asked listeners to stop seeing the land as a resource and start seeing it as a living teacher. He hoped his message would wake people up before it was too late. Then he spoke about the future. He explained that he wanted Turtle Island to continue even when he could not lead it. But continuation required people who were willing to commit, not for fame, not for comfort, but for purpose. He asked people to reflect on what truly matters. Life is not measured by possessions, it is measured by impact. He hoped his journey would inspire others to create their own meaningful path. As he continued speaking, his message grew deeper. He addressed the younger generation directly. He told them that convenience has stolen their connection to the world. He encouraged them to step outside, touch the earth, and rediscover the simple truths of life. He warned that depending too much on technology creates fragile hearts. He reminded them that nature builds resilience that no machine can replace. His message was not angry, it was hopeful. He believed people were capable of change. He believed they could reconnect if they chose to. He then shared something he rarely spoke about: fear. Eustace Conway, the man who survived storms, injuries, and endless challenges, admitted he was afraid. Not afraid of death, not afraid of aging, he was afraid of being forgotten.